Pokémon Detective Pikachu is directed by Rob Letterman. The movie's about Tim Goodman, played by Justice Smith, who's trying to find his detective father, Harry Goodman, who's gone recently missing, while at the same time partnering up with Detective Pikachu, played by Ryan Reynolds, partner of his father, as well as trying to figure out the mysteries behind Pikachu's amnesia. So the director, Rob Letterman, more notably, I saw his work in 2015's Goosebumps. I can tell he does a really good job when it comes to the relationships between characters, whether it be family or friends. He's really good with the social interactions. In this movie, it was no different. I thought that he was very good when it came to the interactions, whether it be just between Pikachu and Justice Smith or, any of the human characters. I thought Justice Smith did a good job at playing Tim Goodman in the movie. Tim Goodman is this character that is more serious than most people around him, with good reason, with the backstory that they give in the movie within his family and the relationship he has with his father. It makes sense that his character would be like this. And only because they bring it up several times in the movie, one of the main things about living in the Pokemon world is the fact that a Pokemon is your plus one. Most people in the universe they have in the film, everybody has a Pokemon of their own. He's the only character, at least the only character that comes up in the movie who doesn't have their own Pokemon. I think it says a lot because he's almost this surrogate for people who are watching the movie or maybe will watch the movie who are around the age that he is, or maybe even around my age, where Pokemon was a thing that we watched when we were younger. Some of us may have grown out of it with things like Pokemon Go and the never-ending games that Nintendo will release. Pokemon is still a franchise that exists, whether or not you're into it or not. So there's going to be people out there who are not into it, even though it is a phenomenon almost. I feel like his character kind of symbolizes that. He's the serious character. Ryan Reynolds, you kind of know what you're getting when it comes to the roles that he plays. He's a wisecracking, ad-lib, one-liner. I feel like they're kind of polar opposites in just the right way to where it adds on to the humor and it gives this chemistry that's really entertaining to watch. So Ryan Reynolds as Detective Pikachu. I like Ryan Reynolds. I like him as Deadpool and most roles that he's gotten since then. But he wasn't my first choice. There was talk going around that people wanted an actor like Danny DeVito to play Detective Pikachu, just because of this ironic, cute little cuddly, Pokemon. But it ended up being voiced by this raunchy kind of actor. And I just really liked the thought of that. But when it turned out it was Ryan Reynolds, I didn't mind it that much. After seeing the movie, I can understand why they casted him for the role, because there was just a lot of heartfelt moments. There's this big part at the end where I just don't feel like it would have been effective if they casted anybody else. So Bill Nighy's in the movie, and he plays Howard Clifford, who's basically the creator of Rhyme City, where most of the movie takes place. In this movie, Bill Nighy, he's at a point in his career now where if you've seen him in a lot of roles, you kind of know where this is going with him in the movie. Despite that, it doesn't really take anything away from the movie. It's just kind of a thing. Me being a fan of his roles in movies, it was enjoyable to see what he did with this character. Lucy Stevens is played by Kathryn Newton, and she's a reporter in the movie. She is a character that is helping Tim and Detective Pikachu every once in a while, and then more notably in the third act. I felt that Kathryn Newton did a good job. I only really know her from a role she had in Supernatural, but that role alone, I could see the range that she had. In this movie, she was really dramatic and humorous at parts. She really gave off this almost Lois Lane attitude where she had to get, the most hot topic that's going on right now, and she just wants her big break. It was a fun character. So with this movie being based off of the whole Pokemon world and franchise, naturally you expect there to be Easter eggs and such, and all the nods and Easter eggs are almost world building tools in this film. It's refreshing to see when you watch a lot of Marvel films or films similar to that where they'll have Easter eggs, but they're not necessarily adding anything. They're just there to kind of wink at the audience. And on the subject of the world building in the movie, I thought the movie did a good job at that, considering that even though it's a Pokemon world, you don't see literally every Pokemon that exists from the original franchise. All the Pokemon that popped up, if they didn't serve any plot purpose, at the very least, they were used in a way that felt organic to the world, because in Rhyme City, where the plot mostly takes place, Pokemon and humans coexist in every form that you can think of. Pokemon have jobs just like humans do. Sometimes, even if they don't have jobs, the roles that they have in the city are organic to their abilities. Squirtle is helping firemen, or sound-related Pokemon are DJs. So I thought that that was really cool and creative. And I'm glad that they took that in consideration with the fact that it's going to be this realistic world. So how do we incorporate Pokemon in a realistic world? So I really like the score in the film. It teetered on either what you'd naturally expect from a score in a film, you know, with an orchestra and such, to this almost techno 8-bit sounding music, which makes sense considering that this film is based off of not only the Pokemon franchise, but video games of Pokemon as well. I'm glad they found a middle ground for both those sounds, and even sometimes some parts of the movie they're playing in like synergy almost. So I like the writing in this movie. I think it says a lot that throughout the movie a scene would go about and it almost seemed like there was this like plot hole at that moment or a misstep in the writing, but then, you know, not even a few scenes later they automatically explain it or back up, you know, what just happened to be like, no, that wasn't random. No, that wasn't a mistake. Or, you know, this is the explanation to that, so don't think that this is like out of nowhere or anything. Despite all of what I just said about the writing, I do feel like there are moments where the writing isn't the strongest. More specifically in the third act, the main villain of the movie, one, if you've seen a lot of movies, it's kind of obvious the switcheroo that they pull on you. And two, I don't mind his evil plan, but at the same time, I feel like he just goes a step too far in the plan. You understand the first step he has in his plan, and it makes sense with how the character is designed, but everything he does afterwards is kind of like uncanny almost. I just feel like if they cut that part out and he's just the main thing that you face, then I feel like the movie just would have been stronger. I'm really on the fence when it comes to the cinematography in the movie. The nightlife they have, especially in the city, is really beautiful looking. It's almost this neon noir looking aesthetic to it. But for some reason during the day, whether it be in the city or in the woods later on in the movie, everything looks so like faded and dead and kind of gross. I don't know what they were thinking when they were doing the cinematography. It might have been just a vision someone wanted, but to me, this is a Pokemon world, and I feel like they really got it right when it came to nighttime in the movie. I just feel like during the day, the movie would have been all the better if everything was more vibrant and almost emphasizing these Pokemon. So if I had any final thoughts, I'd have to say that this is technically a video game film. Yeah, it has problems, but considering all the video games that we've had in the past, this isn't that bad. It's actually a pretty decent film. I thought that it was cohesive and visually nice for the most part, aside from details that I brought up earlier. I can see multiple audiences enjoying this film, a large spectrum of people enjoying this film and taking something home from it. Anyone who plans on making films in the future that are based off of video games should look at this as a stepping stone, at the very least a humble stepping stone for a video game film. So with all that said, I give Pokemon Detective Pikachu a B. So those are my thoughts on Pokemon Detective Pikachu. What's your favorite Pokemon? Where do you think the Pokemon franchise is going to go in the movie universe next? Put it down in the comments below, I want to know. As usual, if you like this video, subscribe, and thanks for watching.